Why ICF certified isn't differentiation. Module 2, Unit 2.3, Niche as Hypothesis. The credential got you here. It won't set you apart. This video explains the three axes that actually do. Your ICF credential matters, you needed it, buyers will ask about it, and it is not, in any meaningful sense, differentiation, because every other serious coach has one too. Credential parity is the structural condition of the coaching market. You differentiate on top of it, not with it. That's not a critique of the credential. It's an accurate description of what the credential does and doesn't do in a buyer's decision. At the PCC and MCC level, the credential tells a buyer you meet a minimum standard, the same minimum standard as every other coach at that level. The ICF Global Coaching Study tracks the volume of credentialed coaches worldwide. The verified count as of this recording is in the course notes with the date noted. The number is large and it is growing. The credential works the way a medical degree works for a surgeon. It qualifies you to compete. It is not the reason a buyer chooses you over anyone else who also qualified. Table stakes is the right frame. The credential gets you to the table. It doesn't win the seat. Consider two PCC coaches, same credential, earned the same year, both competent by any reasonable standard. Coach A's LinkedIn, Executive Coach, I help leaders reach their potential, ICF PCC. Coach B's LinkedIn, I coach first-generation executives, people who got to the C-suite without the cultural map their peers inherited, ICF PCC. A buyer opens both profiles. Coach B has fewer connections, a newer practice, and charges more. The buyer reaches out to Coach B first, not because of the credential, both have it. Because Coach B described a specific situation the buyer recognizes. The credential was the same. The specificity was not. That's differentiation. Differentiation in the coaching market actually happens on three axes, and none of them is credential. The first is specificity. The narrower your stated buyer profile, the less competition you're actually facing. A coach who works specifically with newly promoted female CPAs at Big Four firms is not competing with 50,000 coaches. She's competing with the handful who can credibly claim that exact positioning. Specificity shrinks the competitive set. The second is method, a distinctive named way of working that the coach can describe in 2 sentences and a buyer can understand in 3. ICF coaching methodology is credential, not method. Method is something the coach developed or owns, something that tells a buyer what's different about working with you, not just that you're qualified. The third is evidence, documented results from buyers in the specific niche, in the buyer's language, not general testimonials. Evidence is the axis coaches most often skip, and it's worth being direct about why that's a problem. Most coaches have testimonials. Alex was transformative. This experience changed how I lead. They look at these and think, that's evidence. For a sophisticated buyer, it isn't. A corporate HR director buying coaching for 15 of her directors doesn't need to know that someone found it transformative. She needs to know, what metrics have improved in documented engagements? What do you know about the specific problem her directors face that your peers don't? What can you show her that's specific enough to be real? Evidence doesn't have to be a randomized controlled trial. It has to be specific enough that a buyer in your niche recognizes it as real, not generic. That's the bar. ICF PCC, certified in 4 methodologies, 3 additional certifications. More credentials don't solve credential parity. They add more table stakes. Each additional credential says, I'm qualified in a different way. A buyer already knows you're qualified. That's not what they're trying to determine when they're choosing between coaches. The method axis requires a distinctive named way of working, something the coach can describe in buyer terms, not credential body terms. Stacking more credentials doesn't produce that. It just makes the LinkedIn profile longer. April Dunford's category design frame from Obviously Awesome 2019 gives us the useful operator question here. Not, how do I compete within the coaching category? That question doesn't have a good answer because the category is too large to compete in as a general position. The useful question is, what is the smallest, most specific market where I can be the obvious best choice? That question, which market, how small, what position, is what makes Unit 2.3.2 possible. You need the 3-axis diagnostic from this video to answer it. The competitor map and category of one canvas is on the lesson page. Before you watch 2.3.2, do this. Identify 5 coaches who appear to serve the same hypothesis niche you've been building. Score each one on specificity, method, and evidence. Notice where the field is strong and where it's thin. That map is the input to 2.3.2. Bring it with you. You know the 3-axis. Now you need the map. Who else is serving your hypothesis niche, how they're positioned on those 3 axes, and where the gap is. The competitive red is usually both more crowded and less crowded than coaches expect. More crowded in the generic space, less crowded the moment you get specific. That's what we're working through next.